I'm Diana Allan, the Vice President for Auditions for NATS. And as we're gearing up for the 2020 46th NATSAA Region Preliminaries this fall, I thought it'd be good to check in with our 2018 NATS Artist Award winner, André Chiang. Hi, André.
Hi Diana.
Well, we're so happy to talk with you and just kind of talk about your experience with NATSAA and how that worked for you. And for those of you who may not know all about NATSAA, it's a competition that takes place every other year with the NATS Winter Workshop that happens in New York City in January. It's open to NATS members and students of NATS members. And the purpose of NATSAA is to select young singers whose vocal technique and quality and artistry qualify them for a professional career. So we know that both current members who may be teaching and students of members have entered. How did this apply to you, André? Were you already teaching when you entered NATSAA?
I'm just finishing my second year of my DMA at Louisiana State University, and so last year I just started my DMA and was sort of figuring out what sort of things would be appropriate to apply for, and was also working toward my first doctoral recital, which happened to have a lot of the requirements filled in, and so I thought it was a nice natural continuum to apply, especially since I've been told about the competition for a long time with other NATS members and teachers that I've had in the past. So I thought it was the right time to do it.
Had you participated in NATSAA ever before?
No, this was my first time participating. Usually I was busy during certain times, and it's hard to sort of carve different weekends and prepare all the pieces and then be ready to go. So this was my first time. Yeah.
What were you thinking that you might get out of your participation in NATSAA, and did it measure up?
So I've done a fair amount of competing in vocal competitions that were not so stringent in their sort of scope of repertoire that needed to be performed, and just requirements in general. And so what I liked about NATSAA is that it sort of encompasses the whole sort of artistic scope of what we do in the sort of classical vocal performance realm. And with that, it sort of was a good gearing up to for different recitals, for different opportunities like that, and also just to hear what other people sound like or what they're singing, getting to know new rep, getting to know new people, and especially since it's so regional, you get to meet people from around the country that are doing the exact same thing you're doing. And so I guess the biggest thing I wanted to get out of it was just, well, I mean, I guess I wanted to win, but like other than that, just the experience of meeting. What I found is like meeting other people doing the same thing has been a really good buoy for my own, musical journey in a lot of ways.
Well, I certainly like hearing that. Most people, or many people who enter competitions, I think it's so easy to focus inward, just focus on yourself and what you're doing. But to hear you talk about being able to interact with other people participating and to be able to see what they're doing, that's a great perspective. You mentioned the repertoire requirements, and of course, NATSAA has a large repertoire requirement to include 14 selections.
Hmm.
So in the preliminary audition, you sing somewhere between 12 and 15 minutes. How was
Yeah.
that? How was that, not knowing what you're going to sing in what order? How did that work for you?
Well, it was nice. It was nice that there was a timekeeper, one, so you never felt like you could just go on forever. It never seemed interminable. And choosing your first piece, you sort of get to take control, I think, in a lot of ways of how your audition's going to go. If you choose a fast song in a particular language, typically they will choose something of a contrasting style in a different language. So it sort of really works itself out in that sort of scope. But yeah, I mean, it felt very much like a lot of other auditions, either for opera companies or for Nats, but with a much larger scope of repertoire to choose from. So it's just the time preparing all the music was really the hardest part, I would say, because once you're prepared, sort of okay, move from this song to this song.
Well, it does take time to prepare, but these were things that you had already prepared for other recitals, or how much new repertoire do you think you added to your list that was not already in your
Um,
in
so let's see.
your
I added a couple new things. The newer stuff were some Ned Rorem pieces to fill in the 1950 and above or later requirement. But some of the other pieces I had either lived with for a while or had just started learning. One of my oratorio arias I was contracted to sing with the group. Um, I guess later in the year, and so it was sort of it sort of made sense. I was already working on it. It's a dynamic sort of aria, and so yeah, it's a mix of new and old, sort of just to fill the requirements. But it was interesting, sort of programming it and filling out the different sections, so it's not all just slow songs, it's not all of the same period. It all has a nice variety to it.
That's a good point that you make, because as a finalist, you are charged with presenting a program that makes sense,
Yeah.
that will be contrasting. So when you chose your original repertoire, you may have had that in mind.
Yeah, I definitely did. I obviously went to, because of the amount of music, you go to the things that you have done often or things that you know you do well. And then once you find those pieces that you're for sure going to use, you find pieces that help, I guess, buoy the other aspects of it. If everything is fast, then you need something that's legato, slower. If everything is high, you actually need diversity, even in the registration and tessitura of the pieces, because you can't just be singing every single hard piece you've ever learned in your life in a row, because then no matter how good you are, 15 minutes later you're sort of piped out.
That's right. You as a semifinalist, you have the opportunity to make changes to your original repertoire list. And I wonder whether you took that option, or were you good with the original list?
I don't think I took that option, because I spent a long time just making sure the pieces I had were good to go, and since some of them were being done on my recital, it sort of just made sense to keep living with it.
Hmm. Um, Another thing that you may choose as an option as a semifinalist is to bring your own pianist,
Mhm.
or use a NATS provided pianist. And I wonder which option you chose there.
Um, so for the semifinals, I brought my own pianist. I did my semis in the southeastern region. I think it was at Valdosta State University College, and so I brought a pianist there. But for the finals, all the contacts I know of people that I know I can trust sort of weren't either available or they fell through, and so I went with the Nats provided pianist, who was Maury Ortman, who did a fabulous job. So if that has to be your option, I think you are going to be well taken care of when you get to the finals for sure.
That's good to hear. I'm sure singers who are contemplating entering this year will be happy to hear that. It
For
must
sure.
be unnerving a little bit to actually perform with someone that you're not used to, but it worked out for you.
Yeah. I have had experience with very little rehearsal time for full recital length pieces due to another competition, this National Federation of Music Clubs competition, and so I sort of, I guess there was time to get extra rehearsal, but we in our correspondence we seemed very on the same page about tempi, about breaks and things, and so it wasn't. I think when you find the person, or if you're using the NATS appointed accompanist, just the earlier you can get them all your music, all of your markings, everything, the better, so that they are already prepared for when you come in to sort of, okay, this is what you said, this is how we're practicing it, oh, a little faster, a little slower, and sort of following you in that way. So you always will, again, preparation is key for a lot of these competitions, and the more you can get in touch, the better.
So you did communicate with your pianist quite a bit before you actually
Yes,
arrived.
ma'am. Yeah, I gave him all sort of tempo markings and sort of distinct things that I thought were unique to my own performance of different pieces. And especially I did Dandini's aria from La Cenerentola, which has many different versions of cuts. And so making sure you give them the right cut, also very important. And I think that was sort of the main thing, just making, because a lot of, the Nats hires professional pianists who have done this for a while and play in auditions. And so they know how to deal when people say, I need certain things. But if you don't tell them and you expect them to know, then it becomes their musicianship against yours sometimes, unless they're copacetic.
Yeah, communication is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, at the Winter Workshop, if you recall, in 2018, both the first round and the finals were held on the same day. How did that
Hmm.
work for you?
That was well, luckily I stayed in the hotel because there was also a big blizzard and it was
That's
super
right.
cold. It was so cold. But the biggest thing is, knowing your voice, knowing what you need to prepare to be ready to sing what you have brought to the best of your ability. And so, after the semifinal round, or after I guess the first semifinal in New York, figuring out who was a finalist, then some people went out and practiced. I just kept quiet for a few hours and just rested, took a nap, and then got myself ready to go. With the regular routine, it's a lot, but it's not impossible to do. It just sort of, it's just something a little bit out of the ordinary. But usually adrenaline kicks in a little bit too, so it can't hurt.
I'm sure it does. I know knowing yourself, like you said, that's a real important part of this. And I guess participating in a competition like this really gives you some of that feedback you need about how you need to prepare and
Oh,
how
exactly.
how your process is. Yes.
Hmm.
Well, we are very grateful as NATS members to have the NATS Foundation and their generous contributions to the NATSA prize monies. And as you know, as the 2018 winner, the NATSA winner is awarded more than $13,000 in cash and performances. And actually, no semifinalist goes home empty-handed. All semifinalists are guaranteed $750 at
Hmm.
least. So can you describe what it felt like to be the NATSA winner?
Yeah, so we had, I think, six finalists, and as they do in pageants, you go from from the bottom up. And so it's one of those moments where your name's going to be called, and it's sort of just hoping that you did enough or you showed enough of what you have done and are proud enough of your performance that you gave them something that they think is worthy of the award. Um, so when it got to the last three, it was sort of your heart starts to beat a little more. But then once you know, or it's just this is sort of a wash of astonishment, because even though I was there and I prepared, it's still like kind of weird that I won. And I had uh, just and and the cool thing is you get to hear all the other finalists, so you hear how they presented their own music, and you hear how everyone's personality sort of shown through their presentation, and it's so it's really it was really gratifying. It was a really nice. It just felt very like I would say affirming. Like it's a moment where prize money and everything, but it sort of is a telltale sign that like you're on the right path, that you have done things, and that's for every finalist and the semifinalists too. I mean, it's an affirming experience that you have accomplished something that not too many people in have accomplished really, and so it sort of I don't know. I just felt really grateful, and then very tired. I also felt very tired after that, and I just said,
Sure, a big day of performing. Yes. Well, I was there, of course, and the field was very talented. It was I'm sure a difficult decision, but
yeah.
as you say, I'm sure it was very affirming, very gratifying to know that from this big field of singers, it came down to 14 semifinalists and then one actual winner. Now, as part of your NATSA prize package, you just made your Carnegie Hall debut, correct?
Yes, yeah. So they NATS and NATSAA is partially sponsored by the Distinguished Concerts International of New York, and so they provide an opportunity for the winner to be a soloist in a major work in the big room or a Stern Auditorium in Carnegie Hall. And so I literally I flew out of Salt Lake City last week, was in New York for the weekend, and then premiered as part of a quartet of soloists, the baritone solos of Martin Palmieri's Grand Misa. So a brand new piece, the final concert of their season even, and so it was really cool to sort of, be in a room that historic and that sort of awe-inspiring in its scope.
Wow. Well, that must be a big career high for you to be able to perform in
Yeah.
that space and
Oh,
thinking
totally.
about all the other performers who performed there.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it is definitely a moment that I will remember forever, and they were very professional with the way we were treated, and everything was just very easygoing and smooth, and just the way you would hope things to go when you're making such a big sort of debut.
Well, that's great. Now, I know you participated also in the 2018 intern program.
Yes, ma'am.
So, what is next on the horizon for you?
So right now I'm finishing the first section of this Summer Vocology Institute with the National Center for Speech and Voice at the University of Utah. Dr. Ingo Tietze, or as they call him, the straw man. And I'm going to be hopefully finishing my doctorate at LSU in the spring, presenting a written document and lecture recital on another Ned Rorem song cycle. And I have a few sort of freelance opera gigs with like Portland Opera, Dayton Opera, and some Southeastern Mississippi Opera, Hope Opera. So keeping myself busy while still trying to teach and enrich my teaching experience, I guess, because I think the biggest thing is NATSAA gives you the cash prize, but you also get $1,000 gift certificate to Hal Leonard Catalog, which provides you all this music that you've not been able to afford, but now you can afford it, and this opportunity to sing in Carnegie Hall and then present recitals and everything, and that money always helps sort of continue the growth as an artist and continue providing opportunities for different things. And like the intern program I still think it's one of the it's an absolute highlight of my teaching career. It was absolutely life changing, and something that is well worth applying for anybody. I mean, I think both opportunities are well worth the cost. The benefit, even if you don't win, even if you don't get selected, you start understanding. You notice who gets selected, and you start seeing like what they want, and as a result, you yourself start making choices and changes and like really looking at yourself and bettering yourself. And I think that's just all we can do as voice teachers and performers.
Well, Andre, I want to thank you for talking with us today. I have to say that we are very proud of you as a NATS member, but also as our 2018 NATSAA winner. And I want to just wish you all the best for now and for the future. And want to remind everyone that our 46 NATSAA competition preliminaries are this fall. So check the NATS website for your region's preliminary location and date. And the application can be found on the NATS website. And remember that deadline is September 9th.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks again, Andre, and we'll keep in touch and want to see what else is next for you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Diana.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.